There are moments that measure a person's true strength. On that stage, Ivanka Trump mocked Jasmine Crockett, attempting to portray her as an outsider. The atmosphere turned tense and uncertain, but Jasmine didn't raise her voice or lose her composure. Instead, she asked one question, just one, that left the entire room in silence. The studio buzzes with anticipation. Bright lights beam down, reflecting off the polished desk at the center of the stage. Cameras pan across the audience, capturing faces filled with curiosity. People lean forward in their seats, whispering softly, waiting for the discussion to begin. On one side sits Ivanka Trump. Her posture is straight, her smile deliberate, her presence calm. She carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone used to the public eye. Dressed in a sleek outfit, she embodies control and refinement. Opposite her sits Jasmine Crockett, a rising political figure. Focused, determined, and unapologetically authentic. She doesn't wear a rehearsed smile. Her expression is steady, her eyes sharp, her hands resting calmly on the table. She knows the odds aren't in her favor, but she also knows why she's there. Between them, the host sits nervously with a stack of notes. He forces a wide smile, trying to keep things light, aware of the tension building beneath the surface. His questions start casually. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're discussing some of the major challenges facing the nation. But first, how has your week been? The audience chuckles softly. It's polite small talk meant to break the ice. Ivanka nods, offering a brief, well-prepared response about family, balance, and staying grounded, an answer she's likely given many times before. Jasmine replies with a warmer tone, speaking about her community work and the importance of bringing real voices into spaces like this. The audience nods, some offering light applause. For a moment, things feel normal. Two women from different worlds sharing a stage under the studio lights. But beneath the calm, tension builds because this isn't just another talk show. For Ivanka, it's a chance to reinforce her family's presence and power. For Jasmine, it's an opportunity to challenge privilege and make space for new voices. The audience doesn't yet realize they're watching a clash that won't end in polite smiles. The host shifts to a serious tone. Let's start with the big question. What do you see as the most urgent issue facing Americans right now? Ivanka answers first. Her voice is calm, measured, and precise. She speaks of stability, leadership, and tradition. Every word sounds carefully chosen, every phrase polished for the cameras. She knows how to control the moment. Then Jasmine speaks. Her tone is firm, grounded in conviction. She doesn't dress up her words. She talks about fairness, opportunity, and the voices of ordinary people who often go unheard. She doesn't focus on the cameras. She looks at Ivanka, then at the audience, reminding them that this is real, not a performance. The contrast is striking. On one side, composure and calculation. On the other, honesty and conviction. The audience feels it. The host feels it. The air shifts. Something powerful is about to happen. The civility starts to fade. The smiles, the rehearsed answers, the light laughter, all begin to crack when Ivanka Trump leans forward. Her posture changes, no longer relaxed. Her shoulders tilt toward Jasmine. Her eyes narrow slightly. Her smile sharpens into something colder. The host mid-sentence falters as Ivanka interrupts. Her tone turns sharp. The warmth's gone, replaced by an edge of condescension. Then she delivers the words that silence the entire room. Why don't you go to Africa first and try to understand things there? The room freezes. Every sound disappears. The audience stares, unsure if they heard correctly. A few exchange wide-eyed glances. The host's pen slips from his hand, clattering onto the desk. It's not a suggestion. It's a dismissal. A pointed attempt to undermine Jasmine, to make her feel out of place. Everyone in the room understands what just happened. This isn't about Africa. It's about control, about reducing Jasmine's presence, about making her seem like she doesn't belong. The weight of Ivanka's words hangs heavy in the air. The audience murmurs, uncomfortable. Some frown. Others exhale sharply, trying to process the moment. The host looks at Ivanka, his forced smile fading, caught between keeping the show going and acknowledging the line that's just been crossed. Ivanka leans back, expression cool, almost satisfied, as though she's unaware or unconcerned about the impact of her words. Her confidence grows in the silence, convinced her point has been made. The camera shifts to Jasmine Crockett. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't roll her eyes or shift in her seat. She simply sits still, calm, steady, her gaze fixed on Ivanka as if assessing her. The silence that Ivanka thought she controlled now belongs entirely to Jasmine. The audience feels it. The host feels it. For the first time, Ivanka begins to lose the room. Even though she spoke last, everyone is waiting to see how Jasmine will respond. They know this isn't a typical political exchange. It's heavier, more personal, touching deep issues of identity, belonging, and respect. The tension builds with every second. Cameras zoom in, capturing Jasmine's composure and Ivanka's strained smile. The atmosphere crackles with unspoken energy. Ivanka had tried to rattle Jasmine to make her shrink, but instead, she's created the setup for something far more powerful. A response so sharp it will leave the room breathless. and before she even speaks, Jasmine Crockett already holds the power. The studio is still. Ivanka's words linger in the air like smoke after a spark. The audience shifts uneasily, waiting for Jasmine to respond. But she doesn't rush. She doesn't lash out or raise her voice. She stays perfectly still, eyes locked on Ivanka, expression unreadable. The silence stretches so long that some begin to wonder, is she at a loss for words? The cameras tighten in, capturing her calm breathing, her focused stare, the slight tilt of her head. Then slowly, Jasmine leans forward. Her voice cuts through the silence, quiet, deliberate, precise. So tell me, Ivanka, is Donald Trump your father or your husband? The words hit like thunder. The audience gasps. Some cover their mouths. Others exchange stunned looks. The host blinks, unsure whether to stop the show or let it play out. Ivanka's face tightens. Her polished smile falters for just a moment, but Jasmine isn't finished. She pauses, lets the silence hang, then adds evenly, because this constant shade just feels misplaced. The silence that follows isn't Ivanka's anymore. It belongs to Jasmine. Everyone in the room knows what she's referring to. They've seen the old interviews, the past remarks, the strange comments that blurred the line between fatherly pride and something else. Entirely, Jasmine's question has dragged those uncomfortable memories back into the open, live on stage, and she's done it without raising her voice, without insult, just one razor-edged question. Ivanka shifts in her seat, forcing a laugh as she tries to recover, but the crack in her composure is clear. The cameras see it, the audience sees it, Jasmine sees it, because in that single moment, the balance of power has completely shifted. What was meant to humiliate Jasmine has backfired. What was intended to undermine her has elevated her instead. Even the host can sense it, his notes forgotten as he glances nervously between the two women. The audience can't look away. They're locked on Jasmine, waiting to see if she continue, but she doesn't need to. Her question has already done its work. In under 15 seconds, she's turned the entire room in her favor. Now, the tension sits squarely on Ivanka's shoulders. Every second of her silence feels heavier, every attempt at recovery weaker. Jasmine leans back, calm again, as though nothing remarkable just happened. But everyone knows better. They've just witnessed a turning point, a moment when the underdog took the spotlight and refused to let it go. The silence after Jasmine's response feels almost too heavy to bear. The cameras focus on Ivanka Trump, and for the first time that evening, she's not in control. Her smile flickers. Her polished demeanor cracks. Her eyes dart to the audience, searching for reassurance. But they're not with her anymore. They're with Jasmine. You can feel it in the room, in the whispers, the posture, the attention. The crowd isn't watching Ivanka command the stage anymore. They're watching her struggle to hold it. Ivanka forces a soft laugh, the kind that tries to hide discomfort. She straightens her back and lifts her chin, attempting to regain authority. Look, she begins, voice cool but unsteady. All I'm saying is maybe Jasmine should go to Africa to better understand things. But the words sound hollow. What once felt sharp now echoes weakly, a failed attempt to pull the focus away from the question she never answered. The audience reacts, but this time, not in shock. They murmur with disbelief. Some shake their heads. Others fold their arms, unimpressed. The room's energy has changed completely. Ivanka's earlier control is gone, and every new word only digs the hole deeper. Because Jasmine's question, is he your father or your husband, didn't just land in that moment. It carried history. It brought back years of public discomfort around Donald Trump's past remarks. People remember The View in 2006 when he joked about dating Ivanka if she weren't his daughter. They recall the magazine interviews praising her looks in ways that made people uneasy. The radio conversations where he allowed inappropriate comments to pass unchallenged. Even the talk show moments where he proudly mentioned kissing her often. All of it has resurfaced silently in this room. And Jasmine Crockett is the one who brought it all back into the light. Ivanka tries to steer the topic toward policy and leadership. Anything to shift the focus, but it's too late. The discussion isn't about politics anymore. It's about presence, perception, and power. Every attempt to redirect feels like fighting a current too strong to resist. Jasmine has taken control, and Ivanka is caught in the undertow. The host clears his throat, desperate to smooth things over. He asks a question about unity, about leadership, hoping to calm the room. But his words sound thin because everyone knows the moment has already passed. The shift has already happened. Jasmine Crockett sits calm, composed, almost serene. Ivanka Trump, usually the image of poise, is now on the defensive, and the audience feels it. They sense the reversal. They can see it happening right before their eyes. A power dynamic completely undone. One sharp exchange was enough to unravel years of carefully built image. It no longer mattered how Ivanka would answer the next question, or any question after this. What people would remember was this moment. The instant her composure slipped and Jasmine quietly took command of the room. The air in the studio remained tense, but something had shifted. Ivanka's once confident demeanor had cracked. The audience wasn't captivated by her anymore. Every gaze was now fixed on Jasmine Crockett. Sensing the shift, The host leaned forward, speaking in a calm, deliberate tone. "Congresswoman Crockett," he said softly, "how would you like to respond?" It was an open invitation, a chance to either escalate or ground the conversation. Jasmine didn't rush. She took a breath, glanced at the host, then at Ivanka, and finally turned to the audience. When she spoke, her voice was steady, clear, and assured. "You know, Ivanka can say whatever she likes. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, we're all Americans. No matter how she tries to frame it tonight, I stand here proud, deserving of the same respect every citizen is owed." Her words resonated across the studio, cutting through the silence like a bell. The audience stirred, some nodding, some clapping softly, others murmuring in agreement. It wasn't chaos, it was quiet recognition, the sound of truth connecting. Jasmine's voice grew stronger, but remained composed. "This isn't about me needing to go somewhere else to understand my country. My roots are here. My community is here. My story, our story, is written across the towns and neighborhoods that built this nation, and I won't let anyone make me feel like a guest in my own home." Every sentence subtly answered Ivanka's earlier comment without confrontation. Jasmine didn't raise her voice or insult. Her strength was in her clarity, her unwavering calm. She leaned forward slightly, eyes locked on Ivanka once more. "This table, this stage, this country, they belong to all of us. Not because of names or privilege, but because we are Americans, and every one of us deserves respect as such." The room erupted. Applause filled the air, louder, freer, and more certain than before. Some stood, clapping with conviction. The energy that once felt tense now pulsed with electricity. Ivanka sat still, her polished image faltering under the growing wave of support for Jasmine. For once, her usual calm appeared small, diminished by the genuine energy surrounding her opponent. The host tried to regain control, but the moment had already escaped him. He looked between the two women and understood this was Jasmine's moment. She didn't smile or gloat. She simply leaned back, composed, her words echoing quietly through the studio. She had said what needed to be said, and it stood strong on its own. That was her brilliance. Ivanka's mockery had aimed to belittle her, but Jasmine's response had elevated the entire conversation, precise, powerful, and enduring. The cameras swept over the audience one last time, faces filled with reflection, admiration, and thought. They weren't just watching a political debate anymore. They were witnessing a statement about belonging, equality, and voice. And as the show drew to a close, one truth lingered. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just won the exchange. She had reminded everyone watching in the studio and beyond that this nation belongs to all of us. Not because of heritage, not because of privilege, but because we are Americans. Every second that passed made Ivanka's silence heavier and her attempted recovery weaker. Jasmine sat back calm once again, as though nothing extraordinary had just happened. The audience understands what just happened. They've witnessed a turning point, a moment when the underdog stepped into the spotlight and refused to step back. With one sharp question, Jasmine Crockett proved she wasn't just another guest on a talk show. She was the voice no one in the room could overlook. The silence that follows her response is almost unbearable. The cameras cut to Ivanka Trump, and for the first time that evening, she's no longer in control. Her confident smile falters. Her composed expression slips and her eyes glance toward the audience as if looking for reassurance. But the crowd isn't with her anymore. They're with Jasmine. You can sense it in the way people lean forward, whisper quietly, and shift their attention. Ivanka isn't commanding the stage anymore. She's struggling to hold on to it. Ivanka lets out a small, uneasy laugh, the kind meant to disguise discomfort. She straightens her posture, lifts her chin, and tries to recover her calm tone. "Look," she begins, attempting composure. "All I'm saying is that maybe Jasmine should go to Africa to really understand things better." But the line falls flat. What sounded sharp earlier now feels hollow, a weak attempt to divert attention from the question she never addressed. The audience picks up on it immediately. There's a murmur, not of surprise, but of disbelief. Some shake their heads, others cross their arms, unimpressed. The shift in energy is clear. Ivanka's earlier momentum is gone, and each new word seems to make things worse. Because Jasmine's question, "Is he your father or your husband?" wasn't just a jab. It carried weight. It echoed years of public discomfort surrounding Donald Trump's own remarks about his daughter, moments the public hasn't forgotten. Viewers remember his 2006 View appearance, joking about dating Ivanka if she weren't his daughter. They recalled interviews where he commented on her looks in ways that raised eyebrows and radio appearances where he allowed others to speak about her inappropriately. Even seemingly harmless comments about affection only fueled speculation. Now all of that unspoken tension has resurfaced, placed squarely on the stage by Jasmine Crockett. Ivanka tries to pivot toward policy, toward broader themes, anything to steer the conversation back to safe ground. But it's too late. The energy in the room isn't about politics anymore. It's about power, perception, and presence. Every attempt to regain footing feels like pushing against a current that's already turned. Jasmine has changed the flow of the conversation, and Ivanka is caught in it. The host clears his throat, trying to restore balance. He shifts to a new question, something about unity and leadership, hoping to smooth things over, but even his voice sounds uncertain under the weight of what's unfolded. Everyone in the room knows it. The moment has passed, and the balance has shifted. Jasmine Crockett sits calm and composed, steady in her seat, while Ivanka Trump, usually the model of control, is now visibly defensive. The audience senses it immediately. They can see it playing out before them. A shift in presence, a reversal in power. One remark has undone years of carefully managed image. At this point, it doesn't matter what Ivanka says next. What people will remember is this: the moment her composure cracked and Jasmine quietly took command of the room. And it all began with a question Ivanka never saw coming. The studio air remains tense, but the shift is undeniable. Ivanka's confidence has fractured. The audience isn't focused on Ivanka anymore. Their attention has shifted entirely to Jasmine Crockett. The host, sensing the weight of the moment, leans forward, his tone careful and measured. "Congresswoman Crockett," he says softly, "how would you like to respond?" It's an opening, a chance to either escalate or redirect the discussion. Jasmine doesn't rush. She takes a quiet breath, looks at the host, then at Ivanka, and finally turns to the audience. Her voice is steady and composed. "You know, Ivanka can say whatever she wants," Jasmine begins. "But let's be honest, we are all Americans, no matter how she tries to shape the narrative tonight. I stand here proud and deserving of the same respect every citizen should receive." Her words echo through the studio, firm yet calm. The audience, silent until now, begins to stir. A few nod in agreement. Some clap softly. Others let out low, approving murmurs. It isn't chaos. It's a moment of recognition, a quiet acknowledgement of truth. But before that, Ivanka had already crossed a line. When she suggested Jasmine should go to Africa to understand better, it wasn't just a comment. It was a dismissal, a subtle but pointed attempt to push Jasmine aside, to reduce her presence, to make her feel like she didn't belong. Everyone in the room knew it. It wasn't really about Africa. It was about control, about undermining someone's right to be there. The audience's reaction said it all. Some frowned, others exchanged uneasy glances. Even the host looked momentarily lost, caught between professionalism and disbelief. Ivanka, however, leaned back confidently, convinced her remark had landed. She sat poised, calm, assuming silence meant victory. But then the camera cuts to Jasmine Crockett. She doesn't react. No eye rolls, no smirk, no movement. She simply sits, still composed, her gaze fixed on Ivanka. And suddenly, that silence Ivanka thought she owned now belongs entirely to Jasmine. The audience notices it. The host notices it. For the first time, Ivanka loses control of the room. Everyone is waiting, not for Ivanka, but for Jasmine. Because this isn't just a political back and forth anymore. It's something deeper. A moment touching on identity, belonging, and respect. The tension thickens. The cameras zoom in, catching Jasmine's stillness and Ivanka's uneasy smile. The audience can feel the charge in the air. Something is building. Ivanka had meant to shake Jasmine, to make her falter, but instead she set the stage for her own undoing. Without speaking a word, Jasmine already holds the upper hand. The studio is silent. Ivanka's words still hang in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. The audience fidgets, waiting for Jasmine's response, but Jasmine doesn't rush. She doesn't argue or raise her voice. She simply sits, steady and unshaken. The cameras move closer, capturing every breath, every flicker of expression. Then, slowly, Jasmine leans forward. Her voice breaks the silence. Not loud, not emotional, but deliberate. "So tell me, Ivanka," she says evenly, "is Donald Trump your father or your husband?" The words land with force. The audience gasps. Some cover their mouths, others whisper in disbelief. The host blinks rapidly, unsure whether to intervene or stay quiet. Ivanka's polished smile falters just slightly, but it's enough. Jasmine pauses, letting the impact of her question settle before adding, "because this constant shade just feels misplaced." Now, the silence that follows belongs fully to Jasmine. Everyone knows what she's referencing. The audience remembers the old clips, the interviews, the uncomfortable comments Donald Trump made about Ivanka. Moments that blurred the line between pride and something more unsettling. Jasmine hasn't shouted or insulted anyone. She's done it all with one precise question. Ivanka shifts uncomfortably, forcing a laugh to mask her unease. But the crack is visible now. The cameras see it, the audience sees it, and Jasmine sees it. In a matter of seconds, the entire room has changed. What was supposed to humiliate Jasmine has turned against Ivanka. The tension has flipped. The host glances nervously between the two women, realizing he's lost control of the show. Jasmine.com and composed. Doesn't need to say another word. Her line has already done the work. In less than 15 seconds, she's transformed the dynamic. Now the weight of silence is on Ivanka. Her attempts to recover sound weaker by the second. Jasmine leans back in her chair, serene as ever, as though nothing extraordinary just happened. But everyone knows better. They've witnessed a turning point, a moment where the underdog took control and refused to let it go. With one incisive question, Jasmine Crockett proved she wasn't just another guest. She was the voice no one could ignore. The cameras focus on Ivanka Trump again. For the first time that night, she isn't composed. Her smile flickers, her expression tightens, and her eyes dart toward the audience as if searching for support. But the crowd isn't with her anymore. They're with Jasmine. You can feel it in the way people lean forward and the murmurs spreading through the studio. Ivanka isn't leading the conversation anymore. She's struggling to stay in it. She forces a restrained laugh, straightens her back, and says evenly, "Look, all I'm saying is that maybe Jasmine should go to Africa to really understand things better." But the remark has lost its sharpness. It feels empty now, a weak echo of a failed attempt to deflect. The audience hears it, too. Some shake their heads, others fold their arms. The atmosphere has changed completely because Jasmine's question, "Is he your father or your husband?" didn't just sting in the moment. It brought with it the weight of years of public memory, uncomfortable history, and words that never quite faded. And in that silence, everyone knows Jasmine Crockett owns the room.